Hi, good morning and welcome to meditation. We are meditating on the importance of faith, and today I would like to read with you in Hebrews chapter 11 from verse 36. Others suffered mockery and scourging, chains and imprisonment. They were stoned, sawn asunder, tortured and killed by the sword. They wandered about in sheepskins and goatskins, destitute, persecuted, mistreated, of whom the world was not worthy, wandering in deserts and mountains, in caves and dens of the earth. We are talking about the faith of those who were persecuted, and even today people are being persecuted because they've got faith. The text says that they were tortured. It's a very brutal ancient Greek word that conveys the idea of struck with a stick or a club. People, they were stuck till they died. It could last weeks, it could last a long time until they died. These people, says Hebrews, were waiting a better resurrection. As Jesus said in John chapter 5, verse 29, there is a resurrection to life and a resurrection to condemnation. And these worthy ones, they received a better resurrection. So they went through those trials because they knew by faith that they would be taking a part of a better resurrection. The trial of being mocked, as Isaac endured Ishmael's cruel mockery, and Samson was mocked at the Philistine feast. Even today, people are going through that sort of torture just because they've got faith. They were put into prison unjustly, as Joseph was thrown into prison for his faith, and the King Ahab imprisoned prophet Micah. Joseph was sent to Egypt as a slave. He was sold by his own brothers, and once in Egypt, being faithful to God, because he was faithful to God, he was thrown into the Egyptian prison. And of course, at the end of more than 10 years, after 10 years of trials, of a hard time, he became governor of Egypt. But he didn't know when he was in prison that one day he was going to be a governor. The text says that some people were stoned, like Zechariah, who was stoned to death between the altar and the temple, and Naboth, who was stoned to death by Jezebel's friend. This is a very interesting story in the Old Testament. This man had a vine, he had a field, and the King Ahab wanted it because he's just like lots of people today. They see something and they want it for them. Ahab had lots of land and lots of wealth, but he wanted that beautiful vine near his palace. But Naboth was a faithful person because, according to the law, he had to keep the inheritance of his family within the family. He had no right to sell it. So when he said no to the king, he was just obeying the law of the country, of the land. But Ahab thought he could have it anyway. And his wife, Jezebel, is going to find a way of killing Naboth, accusing him of injustice. So he would be, of blasphemy even, he would be stoned. And once he was dead, Ahab took the vine that he wanted. But of course, the end of that king and his wife were terrible, because the wages of sin is death, says Romans chapter 6:23. Some were sawed in two. According to a reliable tradition, the prophet Isaiah was killed by being sawn in two. And even today, people are being tortured like that because of their faith. They were tempted. Among these terrible physical tortures, the author mentions temptation in the same context. And some people believe that the text has been altered here, and that what the author of Hebrews wanted to say was they were branded, they were burned alive, they were mutilated, they were strangled. But why did people Why did they go through all those trials? Why didn't they choose the easy way? It's because they understood the importance of faith, of perseverance. And even today, people are being taught because they belong to the one who was, who is, and is to come. And they remain faithful to him. They were slain by the sword, says the text, as those prophets in the time of Elijah were murdered, killed. There were 85 priests actually who were murdered that way. They wandered about clothed in sheepskins and goatskins, says the text, like Elijah, who wore such humble garments and cared neither for humility or discomfort. What is amazing about this text is that at the end of the text, it is written that of whom the world was not worthy. The world is never been kind to those who believe, to those who follow the Lord. But the world is not necessarily worthy of them either. They are more precious than the whole world. As Morris says, the group of God's servants, despised and mistreated, was of far greater worth than all humanity put together, says Morris. They died a terrible death, but they remained faithful to the one who was, who is, and is to come. God bless you.